We're officially 80 days away until the NFL season gets here. So that means we got 80 days to start drafting fantasy football teams and 80 days to find the best value at the wide receiver position. Today on the Draft Ranking Show, I'm Cody Carpentier. We're going to be searching for the cheapest wide receiver ones in fantasy football. I got 5 names written down because I think there's 5 that show value. There may be a couple more that you could talk about, but 5 that's going to help us keep it under 10 minutes today. Click that like button. Click subscribe here on the Draft Rankings Show on YouTube. If you're on podcast, click that 5-star review. I appreciate you and love you all. At number 5 today, we're going to start in New England because I think there's a lot of question marks around the New England situation. A lot of people jump in the comments and say, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, did you forget? Did you forget they added Mac Hollins in free agency? No, I did not. And I also love Demario Douglas, but he's not the wide receiver one. The wide receiver one in New England is going to come down to 2 people. It's either going to be Stephon Diggs or it's going to be Kyle Williams, the rookie out of Washington State. If you think it's Kyle Williams, he'd probably be the biggest value here, but he's going off at 157 in the 14th round. I think on the surface and pay and movement would tell you it's Stephon Diggs. He's currently going off 91st overall consensus on ADP across Underdog, FFPC, ESPN, Fantasy Pros, etc., which is the 8th round. But there's a problem. I've never heard this before. I've never heard of a player being traded, not taking a physical, and then starting to practice without having taken his physical yet. But that's what was reported from Tom Curran of NBC on the Rich Eisen show this last week. So it sounds like Diggs could potentially hit the pup, I guess, even though he's been at OTAs. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Diggs is currently going off 91st, which is the 8th round, and he's technically the wide receiver one. But, so there's a caveat, Kyle Williams could be your wide receiver one in New England. He's going up at 157. So there's a sick value here, and he's extremely cheap if he's the wide receiver one in New England. Of course, Hunter Henry's there at the tight end position. Number 4 has to go to Green Bay. 2 players side by side, sitting right there on the 9th round. Matthew Golden, the first round pick out of Texas, is going up 104th overall, and Jaden Reed, 97th. We love Jaden Reed, but they've kind of sort of put him into a Deebo Samuel bucket, which limits his upside, limits what you could see in, yes, he had shades of Deebo Samuel. Yes, he had shades of Antonio Brown. But when you put him in a bucket like Deebo Samuel, you take away the upside of the Antonio Brown from a wide receiver perspective. And again, Reed's not the route runner Antonio Brown was or is. Point being, you limit the fantasy football upside. And then you bring in a Matthew Golden. They've brought in speed. They've been trying to do this. Obviously, they brought in Christian Watson. Dontavian Wicks is a good receiver. There's a lot there. And as far as the wide receiver one goes, Reed might be that guy on a per snap basis, but they aren't utilizing him that way. And they just drafted a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in 2 decades. So Matthew Golden is going off 104th overall out to the top 100. He's our 4th cheapest wide receiver one in fantasy football for 2025. Number 3 is gross because the real number 1 is Brock Bowers. It's not that tough to understand that in Las Vegas, but the wide receiver one is either going to be Jacoby Myers, probably going off 93rd overall right now, 8th, 9th round in New England, not in New England, in Las Vegas, was in New England, obviously. But after that, the reason there's so clear gap here is Jacoby Myers, really Brock Bowers, like I said, down to Jacoby Myers, is Jack Bech is the next wide receiver being drafted. Nobody's drafting Trey Tucker, which I think is kind of wrong. Jack Bech is going 156 overall. Deontay Thornton's not getting drafted either. Deontay Thornton right now is getting run ahead of Jack Bech, who was drafted earlier than him in Las Vegas. Regardless, it's a pukey situation. They're cheap, but I don't want to touch him. I'd rather have Golden and I'd rather have Kyle Williams than having Jacoby Myers. So that's 3. Probably shouldn't make the list, but it's on the list because technically he's cheap and technically he's the wide receiver one. 2 left, 2 of my favorites. Number 2, a lot of people in Buffalo seem to believe that Khalil Shakir is the wide receiver one in that offense. Newsflash, he's not. He's a pretty good wide receiver. He's not a great wide receiver, and he's damn sure not the wide receiver one in Buffalo, even though people are going to try and tell you he is. They're going to try, label him some type of way. He had 76 receptions last year for 820 yards, exactly 100 targets. His rookie season, he had 20 targets. His second season, he had 45. It's taken until his 3rd year to get 100, and he's going to be surpassed by a guy that's significantly better draft capital, better wide receiver, more upside, prototypical X, 22 mile per hour in the gauntlet. You remember, he ran a slow 40, 4.61, 22 miles per hour in the gauntlet. Keon Coleman. Shakir's going off 85th right now in the 8th round. Keon Coleman's going off 116th in the 10th round, right? That's great value for Keon Coleman. People are trying to sleep on this Keon Coleman situation. I'll bring you to one player's situation. You go, no cherry picking. Don't do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back to Allen Robinson, young buck Allen Robinson. Rookie season, 48 receptions on 81 targets. Not exactly an elite catch rate, right? He's playing with Blake Bortles. Keon Coleman this last year, 29 receptions on 57 targets. Again, right around 50%, similar to Allen Robinson. 548 yards for Allen Robinson his rookie year, 556 for Keon Coleman. 4 touchdowns for Coleman, 2 touchdowns for Robinson. That next year, when that connection got better, which I reported last year at Buffalo training camp with the Pittsburgh Steelers, there was no connection between Keon Coleman and Josh Allen. And they grew through the season. Keon averaged 19.5 yards per reception. It's going to get better. And the second year for Allen Robinson, 1,400 yards on 150 targets and 14 touchdowns. Again, there was wide receivers in that room. Marquise Lee, Allen Hurns. In Buffalo, it's Khalil Shakir and Josh Palmer. Kind of similar. I'll take my Keon Coleman shares in the 10th round every single time. And number one for the best value at the wide receiver position in 2025, the cheapest wide receiver one in all of Fantasyland. It's not Jerry Jeudy. It's the next Nico Collins. The next Nico Collins is in Cleveland, and he goes by the name of Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman took that step forward this last year. He's sitting in a Cleveland offense right now that, for all intents and purposes, is going to be run-centric, right? He's got Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, Kenny Pickett. These guys can put the football downfield. Well, maybe not Kenny Pickett to the best extent. But Cedric Tillman can get downfield. He won a lot in the middle quarters the last 2 years, 10.7, 11.7 yards per reception, 339 yards, 224 yards, just under 50 targets the last 2 years, but he showed upside. He showed what he could do. And right now we're playing on projection and what you can do. And what we do know is in Cleveland, Jamari Thrash is the wide receiver 3. Jeudy is perceived as the number 1. He's going in the 6th round right now. The real number 1, will you please stand up? Cedric Tillman. From week 7 on, 8 for 81, 7 for 99 and 2 touchdowns, 6 for 75 and a touchdown, 3 for 47 on 8 targets before he went inactive and got hurt for the rest of the season. Cedric Tillman is the real wide receiver 1 in Cleveland and the best value among wide receivers, the cheapest wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, going off the board at 162 in the 14th round of 2025 seasonal leagues. Do not miss out on Keon Coleman, on Cedric Tillman. This is wrong. Fantasy football does not have to be hard. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Click that like button, and I'll see you on Wednesday.